Good afternoon, my YouTube viewers. It is Palestine here. Welcome to my channel. You're witnessing me wearing one of my few summer tops. And the reason why is because England is a cold country. It doesn't get very hot, except now that we've got global warming. So far we've had 2 heat waves this year, so I have actually had to go to the shops and get 3 more summer tops that don't have any sleeves. But you're witnessing one of my very few summer tops. Most of my summer tops are either short sleeve. Most of my tops are either short sleeved or long sleeved, and very few of my tops have no sleeves. But because it was a nice warm day and I'm back home in the town I live in and I have access to all my clothing, I decided I'd wear one of the very few summer tops that I actually have. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to update you on what's been going on the last few days. So the first thing that happened, if you watched my previous videos, I think that I mentioned that my bed is broken. And the reason why my bed is broken is because it's a cheap bed. I only paid £80 for it, and it lasted somewhere in the region of 3 years. But then after 3 years, the slats in the bed broke, and because the slats in the bed broke, I had to get a new bed. And my boyfriend wasn't very happy about the bed being broken, but there was nothing that we could do until we came back from visiting his mother. And when we came back from visiting his mother, one of the very first things we did was go to Argos. And so we went to Argos, and I bought one of the beds. There were 2 beds that I had picked out because I wanted to pick a bed that I could take with me that day. But none of the beds, one bed was out of stock, so I couldn't order that one. And then another bed, I could pick it up the following day because I have to have a double bed. And then what happened was the following day we received a text message saying that we could pick up my bed frame at Argos. So we had to walk to Argos to pick up the bed frame. And so what happened was this bed frame actually came in 2 boxes, not one, which it was probably easier to carry because it was in 2 boxes. But I had like a small foldable trolley, and by some miracle I was able to get it home on this small foldable trolley. But when I was carrying the trolley, I kind of like had the bed next to my neck, and the box pinched my neck. So I've got this mark on my neck. So I just want to let you know that no, it is not a hickey. But I've got this mark on my neck where the box pinched my neck and gave me what looks like a hickey, but it's not a hickey. So I just want you to know that. And then if you don't know what a hickey is a love bite. And no, I didn't get any love bites. So basically we got home, and then when we got home, well, we wanted to go to this coffee morning. So we had to take the bed frames, the 2 boxes, and leave it in my apartment. But also this trolley I had, the cable had broken on the trolley I had. So it's just absolutely a miracle that I was able to get it home in one piece, but in 2 pieces really. But what happened was I just told my boyfriend, I said, well, it's not going to last anymore. This cable is broken. So we had to throw it away. So that means that among all the other things that I have to buy another foldable trolley. And the reason why is because I have at least 2 suitcases that don't have wheels on them. And so with these 2 suitcases that don't have wheels on them, I need definitely 1, maybe 2 foldable trolleys. And so that's going to be another thing that I'm going to have to buy. So my last foldable trolley, I got it from John Lewis. So either my boyfriend can order me a foldable trolley on Vinted, or we can go to John Lewis and see if they have a foldable trolley. And in addition to that, my air fryer is falling apart. So sometime soon, I'm going to have to get a new air fryer. So I don't know if you noticed, but behind me, my air fryer is on. And basically, I asked my boyfriend, I told him what needs to be done, and I asked him if he would do it while I'm making this video, because I don't know how long this video is going to last. I don't know how long it's going to take me to say everything that I want to say. And then so we went to this coffee morning, and that was a little bit upsetting for me because I saw somebody there that I'm not allowed to be friends with anymore, and so that upset me that, you know, somebody was there that I'm not allowed to be his friend anymore. And then basically after the coffee morning, before the coffee morning, we had gone to Sainsbury's and gotten some things at Sainsbury's for dinner last night. And then what happened after that, we took the bus home. And as soon as we got, then we went to lunch, because if you go to Mr. T's has a $4.99 lunch special where you can get a wrap and a drink for $4.99. So we went to Mr. T's and had lunch, because I have very little food in my apartment, and the reason for that is because I was gone visiting my boyfriend's mother. And so there's very little food in the apartment, and we generally go to lunch on a Friday after the coffee morning anyway. And then so, then after we had our lunch, and then we took the bus home, by that time it was around 2:30. So my boyfriend said that he looked at the clock when we started putting this bed together. And basically, when I was joining the U.S. Air Force, I had to take an aptitude test, and I didn't score very well in mechanics. But even though I didn't score very well in mechanics, I did actually, was able to look at the book. I mean, they have to make the book easy to read, because people from all different intellectual capabilities are going to be looking at that book. So it was a little booklet, and then it says how many parts is in it, so you had to look at all the parts, make sure you had all the parts. And then you had nuts and bolts. You had a little cardboard with plastic on top of it that had all the nuts and bolts and spring and washers and an Allen key and a wrench. So I've got quite a few Allen keys at home, because whenever I buy something that you have to put together, I always keep the Allen key. So I've got quite a few Allen keys at home, just in case I ever need an Allen key. And so basically, I have a really tiny apartment. As you can see, I'm making this video from my really tiny apartment, and you can see my boyfriend is fixing the lunch, which is what I asked him to do. I started it out, and I asked him to fix it so I can make the videos. And then, so we got the booklet, and you had to look at the booklet. And when I took this aptitude test 45, or more than 45, almost 50 years ago, really, I didn't score very well in mechanics. But nevertheless, I was able to read the book and look at the pictures, and because it didn't have any writing in it, it didn't have any words in it. So read the book, look at the pictures, and then I was able to identify the correct part, identify the correct bolt, and then use the Allen key or the wrench to do it. And so what we had to do is, I don't have a place to put a bed together, so we had to put the bed together in the kitchen. And I don't know if you can tell, but I have a really tiny kitchen, but we managed to get the headboard together, and then we managed to get the footboard together, and we managed to get the frame of the bed together. But then when all that was done, we could not put the bed together in my kitchen. So we had to go into my bedroom, and we had to dismantle the bed that had been broken. And so my boyfriend dismantled the bed that had been broken, and then what he did was he had to take these pieces of the bed and he had to take them downstairs to the dumpster and put them in the dumpster while I was waiting for him. And then after that, we had to take the headboard and put it at the head of the bed, and then we had to put the base of the bed, attach the bed to the headboard, and that was difficult to do. And you had to use more parts, and you had to use a wrench. I think it was a wrench. And you had to use a wrench to do that. And so that took a while. It was difficult, and it took a while. And I also had to clean around underneath the bed because there was lots of cobwebs and dust and everything else. So I had to do a bit of cleaning to get rid of all the cobwebs and dust. But somehow or other, we managed to do that. It wasn't that easy, but we managed to do it. And then after we did the headboard, we did the footboard. And then the footboard, yeah, it wasn't easy to do, but we managed to do it. And then, so we managed to do the base of the bed, get the base of the bed done. We managed to connect it to the headboard. We managed to connect it to the footboard. And then what we had to do was he had to take these slats, and we had to put slats on the base of the bed. And then you had these plastic things, and then you had to take these plastic things and put them in where the slats were. And so it was difficult for me to do the plastic things because it was really hard work. And so I had to speak to my boyfriend, and I had to say, I need your help, I need you to help me. But we managed to do it. We managed to put that bed together, and we didn't get in a fight. So even though I'm not very mechanically inclined, I didn't do very well in mechanical assessment when I joined the United States Air Force almost 50 years ago. I was good enough where I could put a bed together. and then so after we finished that, we had to actually take the mattress, put the mattress on the bed, and then we had to put clean bedding on the bed because I didn't want to sleep in dirty bedding after we'd done all that. And then by that time it was 6:30, 6:45, so it had been 4 hours definitely from start to finish, and I hadn't fixed any dinner yet, so we hadn't had any dinner. And I told my boyfriend, I said, I don't want to cook, I don't feel like cooking. So we went to this place called Pepe's, and I said I would pay because I didn't feel like cooking, so I said I would pay. And so we went there, and it was 18.5 pounds for not very much food. And see, that's the problem in the UK. You're having a cost of living crisis, and then you have inflation and things like that. So what these restaurants are doing is they're making the portion sizes really small. And because they're making the portion sizes really small, you're not hungry when you finish it. And then so basically, we went to Pepe's and then had this really tiny dinner for 18.5 pounds. And I told my boyfriend, I said, I don't want to go back there. I said, you know, the food was okay, but it wasn't worth 18.5 pounds. I said, I don't want to go back there. I even had thought about saying, shall we go to Favorite Chicken? And I thought, well, he probably isn't going to want to go to Favorite Chicken, so I didn't suggest it. But next time, I'll go to Favorite Chicken because Favorite Chicken is cheaper. And then so we went into Oasis, and then we saw people in Oasis, and that was interesting too. One of the things that was interesting about it was because this guy that I made a video about him, he's an alcoholic, and he stood me up and ghosted me when I was supposed to make him dinner. Well, he's not speaking to us anymore, and I'm okay with that because I don't want to be around an alcoholic anyway. But this woman, and maybe in previous videos I've talked about it, I'm sure I've talked about it in previous videos, this woman made some allegations against him and reported him to the police. And so he was on bail for maybe it was 6 months. He was on bail for 6 months, and he had to go in and report in for bail every week or whatever. And so it was very stressful for him because he lost his job because he's a mechanical engineer, and so the kind of job that he did, he needed a CRB check. He needed a police check. And so because this woman had made a complaint about him to the police, it was on his records that she had made a complaint about him to the police, and because of the nature of this complaint, he actually lost his job. Well, this woman that made the complaint about him, she was at Oasis too, and I had previously invited her into Oasis, and she said she didn't want to go because she didn't like it there. She only had gone for this one guy. Well, so he was in Oasis, not speaking to me, but I'm okay with that. I don't want to speak to him anyway. And she was in Oasis, and she didn't look like any victim to me. She was prancing around, talking to people, walking right next to him, talking to other people right next to him. She didn't look like any victim to me. If she had been a victim, she would not have wanted to be anywhere near him. She probably would not have gone into Oasis. And if she had been bold enough to go into Oasis, she probably would not have been sitting next to him or talking next to him. She was flaunting it. So she didn't look like any victim to me. I know, because if she had been a victim, she would not have gone to Oasis. If she had gone to Oasis, she would not have been standing up next to him flirting with people and stuff like that. And I told my boyfriend, I said, this is going to be an interesting night. But eventually she left, and I didn't even believe that the allegations that she made about him. I do believe that he probably did what she said that he did in her apartment, but she said that he did it in a pub, which is a public place, and I don't think he did it in a pub. I think he probably did it in her apartment because he's an alcoholic, and alcoholics have a problem, a performance problem. And because alcoholics have a performance problem, he probably did actually do what she said, but he didn't do it in a pub. He did it in her apartment. And so, but he was taken off bail because they got the CCTV footage. The CCTV footage didn't show anything because the CCTV footage was pointing in the other direction. And why they had him on bail for 6 months, I don't know. Because as soon as they got the CCTV footage and noted that the CCTV footage didn't show anything, they should have just released him, but they didn't. They kept him on bail for 6 months. And I've already talked about this guy in another video, so I'm not going to talk about that. I'm just saying this is what happened at Oasis, and this woman doesn't act like a victim to me. Not only that, not only this woman that made these allegations, she was in prison for 17 years for a very serious offense. And so definitely, because of the offense that she committed, she definitely is not a wallflower, and she definitely can take care of herself. And so why the police entertained her, I never will understand, because she's an ex-con for a very serious and violent offense. And for her to go crying to the police saying that he did something to her, which I don't understand why she did that. If it had been me, one, I wouldn't go out with an alcoholic because I've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. But if that had happened to me and I didn't like it, I would just probably push him away and say, I don't want to go out with you anymore or anything like that. But she was just being nasty, and I don't think he did it in a pub. She was saying that he did these things in a pub, and I don't think he did it in a pub. I think he probably did it in her apartment, but he didn't do it in a pub. And then so by 9:45, I was exhausted and I wanted to go home. But another thing that I wanted to talk to you in this video is about first world problems. And the reason why is because we go to Depression Expression Coffee Morning, And the reason for that is because my boyfriend was depressed. And I said, okay, well, we'll go to this coffee morning because you're depressed. So we started going to the coffee morning. And we met a few people at the coffee morning. But most of these people, they have first world problems. Okay, so basically, yeah, and that's what it occurred to me. There was this woman, and obviously I'm not going to give any identifying information. I'm not going to give any information where they can be identified. But there was this woman that she's a scientist, and she's not from the UK. She's from another European country. And she made really good grades in school, and I think she's working for the university as a scientist. And then what has happened is her parents paid for her education. Her parents paid for her to come to the UK to get her PhD, maybe even bachelor's and PhD, but her parents paid for her education. If she had been staying in her home country, she would have been given a bursary so she could live, because she said that her grades were so good they would have given her a bursary. But for some reason, she wanted to go to the UK and get a PhD. So her parents paid for that. And so she said that was the only decision that she was ever allowed to make in her life, was where she was going to go to university, that her parents made all of the other decisions for her. And now her parents are asking her, why aren't you a professor? Because she's had this PhD for 3 years now. And her parents are saying, why aren't you a professor? We paid for your education. Why aren't you a professor? And so basically she's gone off sick. And then she's saying that, oh, when she was in school, she would enter all of these science competitions, but that somebody would beat her. And it was always another person. It was never the same person. It was always another person that would do better than her. So obviously she had a lot of pressure to do well, a lot of pressure to perform well, because, you know, she obviously is very important, intelligent, and she's a scientist, and she's got a PhD. And so she's obviously very intelligent, but she's under a lot of pressure. And since her family has paid for her education, they want to know, why isn't she a professor 3 years after getting a PhD? And then so there's another lady, again, she's got anxiety. And so this one woman who's the professor, well, she's off sick. She's off sick, okay? I don't think she's doing herself any favors by going off sick, because it is held against you. You can say that they can't discriminate against you, but they do. If you go off sick, especially for mental health, it's going to be used against you. So this university that she's working in, okay, now the thing is when they start handing out professorships, they don't want to hand a professorship to someone who's off sick for a mental health reason. I don't know what the problem is. It's probably some depressive related illness, but she said she's off sick. I wouldn't do it. I mean, she's just creating problems for herself, going off sick. If she wants to be a professor, she shouldn't do that, because when they start handing out professorships, they're not going to give it to somebody who they can't rely on. And if you go off sick for mental health, they can't rely on you. And then so the next woman, another woman, and I've talked to her for a while, she's got anxiety, okay? She's got anxiety because her father said something nasty to her when she was 8 years. So for the last 30 years or so, for the last 30 some odd years, she's had anxiety because her father said something nasty to her when she was 8 years old. And so she told her mother that she didn't want to see her father anymore. And so the mother had to make arrangements for other people to babysit her when the mother was working, because the father was supposed to do that. And she said that she didn't want to see her father anymore because he said something nasty to her. And she blames the father. She says that this father saying something nasty to her at 8 years of age is what triggered her depression, triggered her anxiety. And then there's another guy that he was a barrister. So he was a barrister, and he's got stage 3 liver disease, and he was on sickness benefit for a little while, but they took it away from him, and I don't know why, because apparently the job center says that they're not going to give sickness benefit for stage 3 liver disease. And he had to go to a doctor and get a doctor to write a statement to say that he's got stage 3 liver disease. And then so they gave him the sickness benefit for a while, and I don't know why he doesn't get it now. But he doesn't want to work anymore because he says he's got stage 3 liver disease. And then in addition to that, so he's obviously depressed because we're going to a depression coffee morning. And so these are just 3 examples. And I was telling my boyfriend, I said to him, these are first world problems. You go to a developing country, you go to a third world country, they're not going to pay you sickness benefit because you're depressed. They're not going to pay you sickness benefit because you've got anxiety. And so these are first world problems. And so these people are just having pity parties, I don't have the luxury of being depressed. This one woman, I don't know what her diagnosis is. I know she's sick. She's sick, but she's working in a university. And then the way it is that I know of working in this hospital is they'll give you sickness benefit the first 6 months. And then I think the second 6 months, I think you go on half pay. And then when you've been sick for a year, they don't pay you anything at all. And so I know of people who exploit sickness benefit. And as soon as they'll be sick for 6 months because they're on full pay. But if they're not genuinely sick, then what they say is, oh, I'm okay now, I'm ready to go to work. And the reason why is because they've gone down to half pay. And so since they've gone down to half pay, they say, oh, I'm not sick anymore. I'm ready to go to work. I'm not sick anymore. Because your pay goes down to half pay. And that's the way it is where I work. And I'm sure that it's like that in a lot of places. But if you want to be a professor, I don't think it's a good idea to be going off sick for depression. I think you need to try to weather the storm and work through it but see, this woman knows that the parents paid for her education, so they're not going to let her be on the streets. If she's that bad mentally, they'll tell her, come home, we'll take care of you at home. And then she's married, so her husband's going to support her, so she's not too worried about where her next meal is going to come from. And the girl that's got anxiety, she's living at home with her mother and her grandmother. They're not going to see her on the streets. They're not going to let her go hungry. So both of these women, they have the luxury of being depressed or having anxiety. And these are just first world problems. You don't have these kind of problems in a developing country. You don't have these kind of problems in a third world country. And the reason why is because they're not going to pay sickness benefit. They're not going to pay you to be depressed. They're not going to pay you to have anxiety. So you just have to suck it up. And so that's just what I was thinking. I was just thinking, yeah, these are first world problems. I mean, okay, so the UK government tells me I'm sick, and I don't have a choice. That's what the UK government is telling me. They tell me I'm sick. And because I'm sick, I'm only allowed to work permitted hours, and I'm only allowed to earn a little bit of money. So I have to have assistance from the government because the government is saying I'm sick. So I have to have assistance from the government. But it's not a lot. It's not a lot, and I have to pay my rent, I have to pay my council tax, I have to pay my electric bill, I have to pay my phone bill, I have to buy my food, I have to buy clothing, I have to pay for my MS Office, I have to pay a lot of bills. And then I actually did a budget for a Excel course that I made a video on, and I did a budget just to show people how to make a budget. And I need like £1,200 a month just to stay alive, just to break even, So I'm not getting much assistance from the government. not much at all. And I do work permitted hours, and I make permitted money. So that's what I wanted to talk about. So in this video, I've talked about my bed. I got a new bed. I had to pay 99 pounds for that, and my boyfriend and I put it together. I talked about going to the coffee morning, and I talked about first world problems. And another thing, the final thing that I wanted to talk about, because this is supposed to be a cancer channel, is I was looking on the news. I received an email on the news, and it said, or a message on the news on my phone, because I prefer to look on my phone, and I prefer to watch videos, and so I can clean the house or whatever while I'm watching a video or listening to a video, really. And it said that if you rest, if you're sitting still for 30 minutes, that your risk of cancer is higher. And then what they were saying is they give a big old list of cancers that you're at risk of getting if you sit still for 30 minutes. Okay, so breast cancer is in that list of cancers that they say that you can get if you sit still for 30 minutes. So they say that you're supposed to exercise. Okay, well, the job that I do, I'm sitting in front of a computer screen the whole 3.5 hours that I'm working, and I can only get up to go to the bathroom or go to the canteen and get a glass of water, or go to the canteen and get a salad that I can take home and eat it at home. So basically, I'm at high risk of getting cancer, which I already have cancer, as you know, because I have a very sedentary lifestyle. I definitely sit for half an hour and working on the computer, doing a Kaggle competition. I did a Kaggle competition this morning, making a video. So yeah, it's true. I had a sedentary lifestyle. I definitely sat for half an hour, and I got cancer. So it's true. It's true. If you sit for half an hour, you're high risk of getting cancer. So that was another thing that I wanted to talk about in this video, because this is supposed to be a cancer channel. So I need to talk about things that are related to cancer. So that concludes my video. If you like my video, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching my video. It means a lot to me that you are taking a lot interest in my very pathetic, impoverished life. Thank you.